What's up, guys? Spin Firearms here, and today we're going to be talking about my top 10 firearm brands for everyday carry. Now, yours may differ, yours may be different, your opinion might vary, but this is mine. This is just based off experience, a lot of rounds downrange, 24/7 carry time, and I've carried every handgun you see on this table at some point, multiple times, and I absolutely love them. And the reason they made the list is simple: ergonomics, reliability, durability, how I think it's going to perform in the future. So let's get into it. Let's get started. But before we get started, hit the like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe. List me your top firearm brands and why in the comments. Love to see it, and on top of it, it'll help the channel out. Let's get into it. Number one, you know the answer. We don't need to spend a long time on this. Glock. They just run. I don't need innovation. My life is simple as is. I don't mind my handguns being simple. It just runs. I have 13 Glock 26s, never a single issue. Never a single issue with my 19s, my 27s, my 39s, my 33s, my 28s, my 27s, my 43Xs, my 43s, my 40. I mean, the list goes on. My 29s, my 30s. Not a single issue. I've talked about my only issue out of every Glock I've ever had was out of my Glock 45 with a brand new 17-round mag, and I had one issue. And I actually have that video up on YouTube. Now, obviously, we know that's probably a mag break-in issue or whatever the case may be, but since then and before then, not a single issue. And if you notice, a lot of my Glocks have some aftermarket parts and stuff in them. Still no reliability issues. Check out my 43X. My 43X is really getting up there in round count. It's really getting to the point where this thing is deemed as solid of a handgun as you could possibly have. And look at it. What is Glock left on here? The frame and the barrel, I think, and obviously the internals. But other than that, it just runs. So that is why I have Glock. It's so simple. Here's the thing I want to point out to you guys, and I have nothing against SIG. I love shooting my SIGs. I love building SIGs. I just don't like carrying my SIGs. But here's the thing. Crap hits the fan, right? And you got your SIG on you. Something goes wrong with a spring on the inside. Something goes wrong with an internal. You're going to sit down there and work on your FCU for 30 minutes to an hour. Something breaks on my Glock. I got 10-part kits sitting upstairs. It'll take me 2 minutes to diagnose the problem, 2 minutes to put that new part in. Good to go. I kid you not. That is the difference. The FCU is absolutely genius. It's a great design, smart as can be. But when it comes to crap at the fan situations, you're in it deep. You need something reliable. You need an easy fix. I'm telling you, it's just out of the picture. But next up is going to be Springfield Armory. I have 3 OG Hellcats, 1 Hellcat Pro, an XDS, an XDM, an XD, the list goes on. They always just run. Not a single issue. And when I took my Hellcat apart completely, actually I did it mainly to check out how I... So here's how it is. When you get a handgun, you should always take it down and learn it first thing. It's a great thing. So when I first got my Hellcat, it's actually funny. I noticed all the similarities it has to other manufacturer brands, but I also noticed all the differences it had. And I thought a lot of the differences are what made it such a good quality handgun. But when I really learned the Hellcat and its design, you realize this thing is built for long-term use, heavy use, and it's built to deal with certain malfunctions that other handguns aren't, like a nose-diving round. They have a built-in double feed ramp, so in case it goes below your barrel's feed ramp, it's still going to get angled up into your barrel. Absolutely solid as can be. Great design. Love Springfield Armory. You can't tell me a single thing that'll change that. Next up is going to be FN. My FN 503 is just one of my favorite handguns I've ever owned, and the reflex is really growing on me. I love the reflex. I shoot it often. Great trigger. A little bit longer of a reset, but good ergonomics, good texturing, good sights. It's just a solid handgun. And my FN 503, if you've seen this channel before, if you've seen other videos, you would know my FN 503 has been through a lot. It's been through a lot, a ton, and it just runs. Gives me no issues, and that is what I like about handguns. I don't need the most expensive thing. If my thing runs, I'm happy. Notice, very little red dots on the table. Notice, very little upgrades. If it runs, it runs. Look at this thing. You thought you'd never see one of these again talked about. I love this thing. Number 4, Smith & Wesson. They just run. And I know their quality control is a little bit of an issue right now, but the ones that I own just run. My Shield Plus, my Shield 40, my Shield 357 SIG, my CSX, my Bodyguard. This right here is one of my favorite handguns, actually. And I bought it for $300, absolutely used. and it runs. So I have no complaints, and I love all the innovative stuff that Smith & Wesson's doing. Think about it. The new SDVE, the Shield Plus, all the new triggers, the CSX, the 22 Magnum they have. I mean, there's just so much they're putting out, and it's all good quality stuff, except for their 10mm, I do have to say. Next up is going to be a CZ. I only own 2 CZs, but the second you shoot one, second you run a bunch of defensive ammo through it, you know this thing's going to be built like a tank, and it's going to be built precisely. It's going to be tuned properly, it's going to be to spec, and you know you're not going to have any issues. CZ really focuses on quality, in my opinion. Just look at that finish. One of the best finishes in the game. But my CZ P10M has more rounds than my P10S, and I just love them. Next up, I got to go number 6 to HK. I only have one HK, but this thing is a tank. It's a beast. It shoots everything. I did a staggered mag with 7 different defensive ammos in one mag. Ran them all fine. It's not the fastest shooting handgun in the world for me, but I know that it's going to run and go bang every single time. And I know I can put this thing through absolute crap, and it would still run. May not be the most pretty gun in the world, but it goes bang every time you need it to. Next up is IWI, and that's simply because of the Masada Slim. I was never interested in any IWI pistols until they released their version of their Micro 9. And this thing's like a Glock 43X with a great trigger. It really is. It's really ergonomic in the hand, has a larger upper to help handle recoil, and it really does handle and mitigate that recoil well. It has this awesome flat face with a curved style trigger that is probably one of the best defensive triggers out there. I would put it up there with the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus, even the GX4, all great defensive triggers. So you can tell it's just going to run and do what it's supposed to. Next might surprise you, but Taurus. Taurus is a company that has really been changing the game, and that's why I have them up on here. Because a lot of people right now, with how expensive things are, you got to be realistic. Some people have $250 and they want a firearm because they see the way the world's going. They want a firearm that they can defend themselves with and protect themselves with. And through my 2 G3Cs, my 2 GX4s, and my TX22, the only one to have real malfunctions in the field were the TX22, and that was ammo sensitive because it is 22 long rifle out of a pistol. But when it comes down to the GX4 and the G3C, they just run. The finish is junk, but the handgun itself runs. So if you want to defend yourself, you need a budget-oriented option. I have no problem talking about Taurus because mine have continued to prove me wrong. I used to speak out on them and say, don't carry a Taurus, don't do it. But Taurus has really upgraded the people that work for them, upgraded their staff. They picked up some really helpful people from SIG and CZ, and I think even someone said Walther. They've really been changing their firearm company around before our eyes and allowing us to have budget options that are affordable and run. So, got to give them a shout out. Number 9 is going to be Canic. Now, the reason I talk about this one is, yes, I had issues with my Meta MC9 at first, but since my new guide rod, this thing has run flawless. There's no more slide drag or guide rod drag, whatever you want to call it. It runs like butter, ergonomics on point, shoots so well. But the main reason is I know a lot of people with a Canic Meta MC9 that has already 10,000 rounds. I know someone with like 6,000 rounds. I know people that this is their go-to carry, and they really have been testing it and burning it out, and they haven't had a single hiccup. And they also have the larger full-size Canics and so on, and they all just swear by them. And when I shoot this thing, I'm about as accurate as I can get with a micro pistol. I mean, on point, 1.5-inch groupings at 30 feet. I mean, this thing is just as quality as can be, even without the red dot. Solid as can be, and I know that's a piece of garbage up there, but whatever. A great shooting handgun. It's just the downfall for me is that trigger guard. It's cold where I live. You need gloves. It's going to have a hard time, but great handgun. Last but not least, Ruger. Now, I have had some issues with Rugers in the past, particularly one handgun, but since then, not a single issue. Got rid of that handgun, picked up other Rugers, not a single problem. Reason I like Ruger, American made, simple, and it gets the job done. They don't go all out on giving you crazy features or anything, but like stuff like the older SR9C, these things are built like tanks. They're extremely shootable. They have an awesome trigger, and these were the Rugers that felt real, if that makes sense. They felt like these could go to war. These could take a beating. These could get destroyed. Versus nowadays, a lot of the Rugers somewhat are on the cheaper end and feel cheap. Even though I like Ruger, I like what they're doing, they give you a good quality American-made firearm for the price for hardworking Americans trying to pay their bills, take care of their families, and so on. It's not going to break the bank, and it's still going to go bang when you need it to. generally Rugers are solid handguns. So that's my top 10. Here's the thing. Everyone has different preferences. Everyone has things they carry, things they like. If you notice something, look at from here up. Those are things you see in a lot of my videos. Those are things you see me carry a lot. These down here tend to be cheaper options, and maybe more oriented or more budget oriented, but tend to have a little bit more issues. But if you stick to that $400, $450 and up range, that's where you tend to not have issues. If you stick with an everyday carry handgun somewhere between $400 and $800, you're going to have a solid running handgun. Second you go a little too high, the tuning can be off, the specs can be off. Second you go too low, it can now be a budget-oriented problem. But I've had good luck with my budget handguns, good quality handguns. I have nothing against them, and you need stuff like this. Not everyone can go out and pick up a $600 Glock, a $600 or $550 reflex, pick up a holster for it, pick up a couple hundred rounds, pick up some hollow points. When you really add it all in for getting your first handgun, it gets really expensive. And so it's like, if I want to carry right now and be ready to defend myself, maybe I'll get $250, spend another $60 on a holster, a couple box of ammo, some hollow points, and I'm good to go. And then I'll start saving up for a nicer quality handgun. So you just got to think in terms of reality, guys. We're not all these YouTube influencers making tons of money and stuff. We're real people with they're just trying to afford a handgun to defend ourselves. So do not get on people about that. If you can afford a high point, I don't care. If you can afford a Sky, I don't care. If you have something, that's better than nothing. I think that's how everyone should think. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.